there, folks. Welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. Yes, I'm throwing a curveball at you people. Yes, I am. It's a Sunday. It's not Flaggins Up Friday. It's not even Flaggins Up Saturday. It's Flaggins Up Sunday, people. Because people, I've taken an extended weekend in order to enjoy Elden Ring to its fullest, people. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say no more. Flaggins up to you all, people. Also, truth be told, I wanted to watch the cup final, the football cup final today. Liverpool versus Chelsea, people. I have three teams. I probably shouldn't tell people this because they'll probably unsub me just for supporting them. I've got three teams. I've got Scotland, obviously, Celtic, and Liverpool. That's my three teams. So I've got a north of the border team and a south of the border team, and I've got my national team, people. Obs. So yeah, so I wanted to watch the cup final. You can all be laughing at me by the time you see this, but my Liverpool, they'll probably have been beaten by Chelsea. And you know, it'll all be for note, but never mind. Hey, you've got to enjoy the experience. Just no matter what happens, what the outcome is, being in the final is a good thing. All right, so Flaggins up to you all. Have a sip of this. It seemed only right and proper, people, only right and proper, that I do a podcast specifically on Elden Ring on the very weekend that it dropped. Now, the game dropped on Friday, and I was just really fortunate that the postman brought it a day early. It happens sometimes. When you buy a physical copy, just depending on what time of the day that particular company posted it and what time of the day your mail comes and all that sort of good stuff, every now and then I get a game just a day early. So I was really fortunate that I got Elden Ring on the Thursday sort of morning lunchtime, I think it was. And with that in mind, I took the Friday off anyway, so I took Friday and Monday and Tuesday off. So we've got an extended weekend to be playing some good stuffs, people. And I thought it was only right and proper that I do a podcast a bit later in the weekend and on the weekend that it arrives, so everything's fresh in my mind and I'm just getting stuck into it. Clearly, I'm giving my impressions after a certain amount of gameplay. I have played at this point about 10 hours. I realise in the world of Elden Ring and in Soulsborne type games that 10 hours isn't a huge amount of time, and certainly not in this open world that they've now given us. But it has been enough time for me to do enough exploration, enough boss fighting, enough, enough discovery, and enough sort of with the armors and stats and all that sort of stuff to give me a proper full impression as to what this game is about and whether or not it lives up to the expectation and all that sort of stuff without any shadow of a doubt. So I think I have got a list of things I'm going to work through. Before we get into Elden Ring, however, let me just say this and let me say no more. Quick channel update. I did say I was going to bring more Dragon Age Origins. That has kind of fell by the wayside. Let me know if that's disappointing to you or not. Really, what's happened is I wanted to follow Grim Dawn with another similar type game. I talked about it in the last podcast, perhaps, I think. And I picked up on, I did a whole bunch of sort of checking up on what the best ones were. Historically, really, didn't necessarily have to be a new one, but Torchlight 2 came out very high in the pile of things. And I've also picked up a game called Victor Vran, I think it's called, which is almost sort of vampire-y type, top-down type thing. I think it was a bit of a cult classic, bit of a cult hit. It's a little bit different so far as I don't think you can pick your classes and that sort of stuff. I think it is Victor Vran is a character and he does what he does and he has the moves that he has and all that sort of stuff. But outside of that, it is still a top-down, looter type thing. So I bought that as well, got that on the cheap. I think I got that for around £10 maybe, a little bit less perhaps, on eBay. And the Torchlight 2 I bought, I think, well, you can buy the 360 version on disc, but the Xbox One was digital only, I think. So we're playing that. It's a really lovely, smooth 60 FPS. Beautiful, gorgeous game, Torchlight 2. If you've not checked out Torchlight 2 and you think that it's like, man, what's that all about? Honestly, give it a couple of episodes if you're into watching me play stuff, because it is absolutely gorgeous and a really, really good fun game to play. And I got that for about 16 quid, and it, on the Xbox store. It is available on PlayStation as well, I believe. So, yeah, so I've been having a really good time with it. And then, obviously, I knew that Elden Ring was coming the following week when I started that. So, I kind of got really hooked on Torchlight. Ooh, banging the mic. And then when Elden Ring came, I was expecting to be not quite as hooked into Elden Ring as quickly as I was. But we'll talk about more about that in a little minute. But those are the two games I'm going to crack on with at the moment. So the Torchlight 2 will give me a bit of an alleviation from the trauma that might become Elden Ring as I get deeper into it. But I don't really see the need to be taking on a third game at the moment. So let me know if you're a bit disappointed that I'm not doing a bit more Knights of the Republic or Dragon Age Origins. But that's sort of how the wheel has spun at the moment. And I'm thoroughly enjoying both of these games that I'm doing. So I don't really want to pull away from them to squeeze in a third. You know, I'm only a part-timer, people, you know what I mean? If I was doing it full-time, I'd be more happy to do 4 or 5 games at a time for you. But, you know, if you could just get sort of 1 million more of your friends to follow me and watch my videos, we'll be able to do it full-time, people. There you go. Yeah. The flagon's up. Oh, it's gorgeous, people. It's gorgeous. Sun's been shining today as well. It's been a beautiful day. It almost feels like spring. There's all sorts of things springing up in the garden, people, at the minute. So it feels like the 3 horrendous back-to-back storms we've had have just kind of subsided slightly, and we're getting this beautiful weather over the weekend. So it's been nice to have a little beer there while I was getting all of this ready to record, and the sun's now just dying down a little bit outside. I apologise for the lighting. I don't really have much in the way of combating outside light when I'm doing these sort of things. We've talked about it before, people. Anyway, shall we talk about Elden Ring, people? So my initial, it came on the Thursday. Now, here's what I expected, right? With most Souls games, I expected to play it for maybe 3 hours or so, feel a bit traumatized, go away and do something else, you know, play a different game for a bit, and then come back to it a day or so later, do another couple of rounds, and so on. Keep jumping in and out of it. It turns out, in fact, I haven't actually recorded. I mean, I'd already recorded a whole bunch of Torchlight 2 anyway to last us through to next Thursday, I think, or this Thursday coming. But I had it fully anticipated to record more Torchlight 2 in the midst of playing Elden Ring, because I felt like I would need a break from it. In actual fact, it has been the complete opposite of that. And I've not wanted to leave Elden Ring at all. So the only time I've been leaving Elden Ring, and at this point I have recorded 9 episodes, which are all, or 9 parts, that have all been, I think, all been uploaded now. I think maybe, no, part 9 is rendered. It just needs uploaded for, that will come on Tuesday, I think. So we've got one, you've got another one, as I'm recording this, there'll be another one in 2 hours' time, because, well, actually, it's now about 4:45, I think. So it'll be about an hour and a quarter's time. You'll get one at 6 o'clock today. You'll have seen that by now. And then there's another one tomorrow, and I'll upload the other one for Tuesday. And we've still got a bunch of Torchlight 2s to get us through to Thursday. But I will obviously have recorded more Elden Ring by the time we get that far. And you guys, you know, we've got a little niche set of people loving the playthrough, of people that are playing along with me. And yeah, it's been, the reaction from me has been the complete opposite of what I would have expected from a Soulsborne game. You know, be it the Dark Souls or the Bloodborne or whatever. I have not felt the need to step away. And I think the reason for it is simply because if you find yourself in a tight spot, just walk away and go and do something else. It's because the path isn't linear and you can kind of go wherever you like and do whatever you want. You're not tied into a particular road to take or path to take, you know, whereas with the others, there might have been go there first or there first, but nothing as widespread as what we have here. And also, not just a number of paths, but just general exploration is really, really fun to do. You know, I can't think of more than 5 minutes going by where I don't suddenly walk around a corner or discover something and go, holy fuck, what's that? Or holy shit, what's in here? Or, you know, the discovery level is, and I'm only in, well, I've ended up jumping into I found 3 parts. Okay, let me just say before I go any further, this is going to be spoiler free, right? I should probably have said that at the beginning of the video. I might talk about little pieces of an area, and I might mention 2 bosses, right, which are very, very early in the game, and you might see them in a bit of video footage that I put up, right? So the very 2 early bosses will be shown in a video clip, and I may talk about them a little bit, and I will obviously be showing off some of those areas. The areas I'm showing off are from the first areas of the game, so I'm not showing you anything too in depth. I'm not going to be talking about story or campaign stuff, any of that sort of thing, other than just meeting a couple of characters that, you know, do certain things. So it is going to be fairly spoiler free. I'm not going to be, you know, going in depth into the story or you know, any of that sort of funky stuff you might want to hear. So you will see a little bit of imagery. You know, I think probably you'll be okay if you don't want things spoiled, unless you really don't want to see any of the bosses, or, you know, but I think you're probably safe. You're probably safe. I'm not going to go too in depth, people. So just like, it's been one of those, like, I didn't realize, right? My son told me this yesterday when he started playing it finally, and he said, you know, that the actual site of grace, which is what the bonfires are called now, effectively site of grace, they have a glow of light shooting out of them in a direction, like an arc coming out into any direction, and that light is pointing you in the direction of the next part of the campaign. Right now, I didn't know that until he mentioned it, and I'm sure the game probably told me, but I didn't know. Right, I didn't pick up on it, and I just kind of must have brushed over it, like I do with many things at the beginning of a game. I'm taking so many things in that I miss half of it. So that was it was a bit of a blessing for me, because I feel like if I had realised that, I would have followed it too much, and I feel like because I didn't know that that's where it was pointing me. Oh, that I didn't even realise the light was pointing anywhere. I just sort of saw this glowy thing, sat at it, did what you needed to do. So for me, I kind of feel a bit blessed that I didn't notice that, because it meant when I walked out into the open world, because you get a little portion at the beginning that's tight, constrained, teaches you what the basics of what you're going to be doing, and then it opens up into the open world. And once you open up there, you just go wherever you like. So, it was really walking out into that world for the first time in a From Software game, a Soulsborne game, whatever you want to call it, and having that kind of freedom. When I first stepped out, I was like, oh, right, okay, this. It was a little bit, at first I felt a little bit daunting, because I thought, right, I have no idea where to go. There's a guy who sort of says to you at the beginning, like, maybe you should head toward the castle or whatever, but that's way over there on a mountaintop, and there's all this stuff going on around you, loads of land to look around, and there's like a big guy riding around, big massive gold guy on a horse that he looks quite scary. And I thought, well, I'll avoid him, because I'd probably get my ass handed to me. So it was a little bit daunting. But once I started going off and just exploring, I was immediately like, I got really hooked really fast. And you're discovering, the initial sort of enemies that are sort of testing you a little bit, and then you're getting used to your moves. I went the astrologer. Or astronomist, you know what I mean, astrologist, I think they're called, which is the mage type character. So you've got a sword or a staff. So if you want to throw your magic, you put the staff on, put your sword on. If you want to do some melee stuff, you start with a little shield. I also picked at the beginning, with all of these games, you get the option to pick a little present that you get for the game. And there's one that upgrades your flask to be able to, it's the item that upgrades the flask to be able to fill it up once more. So once you get to a certain... I think you could do it at the very first site of grace, actually. I don't think you had to meet the woman that... But with all of these games, you have to get to somewhere very early on for that, to meet someone that helps you level up, right? So that person... I can't remember whether it was the first site of grace or when I got to the site of grace where that person was. As to whether or not I could upgrade my flask. It might have been where she was. But anyway, all you did was it let you use your flask 3 times instead of 2 times, upgrades it that way. I think actually it starts with 3 and I upgraded it to 4. But because I'm Magix, I've also got the blue flask. So I'm kind of balancing, at the moment I've got 3 and 3. I think I've got it balanced at, because I've picked up, I had 1 as a present, and then I got 1 in the game. So at the moment, I've got 3 health and 3 focus points, whatever it is, to top up the magic when the magic runs out, which is a really nice balance. So yeah, I mean, once I got out there, I'm kind of glad I didn't know that was pointing in a direction. I think by pure chance, because of the way that I went, right, I'm going to avoid that big fucker on the horse. I'm going to go right and go through the underbush. I've just ended up, I think the first place I went to was like a burnt graveyard or something, I think it's called. It's a sort of bog bit with water. and got attacked. It's always fucking dogs and wolves and stuff that get me. Like, they always nibble at my health. I can never seem to do them without getting a nibble at me. Bear in mind that the mage starts with a shield that isn't 100% physical protection either. So I think it was maybe, I want to say 60 odd % in the first shield that I had. So 40% of their damage was still getting through to my health bar, even though it was protection. So the first thing I always try to find in these sort of games is a shield that's got 100% physical protection, because it stops your health getting nibbled at from these sort of melee type characters. So yeah, so I ended up there, and then I did a bit of wandering around. I thought, right, I'm going to leave them alone now. I think I died a couple of times. Then I thought, right, I'm going to head out somewhere else, in a different direction. I'll come back to this. And then I ended up at that site, the second site of grace, sort of in the open world that I discovered anyway. And only later did I realise that I'd completely walked past one of the very key ones at the beginning, which isn't like me at all, is it? Where there is, I'm probably not going to mention what's in it, but you do meet somebody there. You do get to know that there are things you can do there, to do with your inventory, your collectibles, your weapons, the stuff there that is important. As it happens, I found it much later, but I have now things to do there that I wouldn't have had that early on in the game. But it was something at least to tell you, oh, come back here later. So, it is worth having a really good look around those areas and not spanning off into not being too fearful, I think, is what I'm getting at. Yeah, fine, avoid the big fucker on the horse if you really want to, but don't be rushing to the next spot or trying to see too much over there before you've had a look what's around you here. And because there is so much to discover, I actually, after 8 hours of playing, I decided to go back to that first section. And I've gone left instead of right and discovered a whole beach and things to do there. And, so it is, it's one of those games that feels daunting when you first walk out, but just take your time and look around everywhere and discover things and realize you can pick things up. And, you can, it's sort of berries and plants and all that sort of stuff you can pick up now, as well as other things. And there's always, like, just around every corner, there's something to discover or pick up or look at or see a view of the beautiful world that they've created. But it's not empty as its great thing. Like, if you look around these nooks and crannies, you will find fun things and challenging things to do in every area of everywhere I've been so far. So from that, I'll just rewind a little bit here. So I was gonna start with sort of, what additions they've done to. I mean, I probably should have started with, for the people that don't want to sit through the whole video. I should probably say that the answer to the thumbnail, which I've probably put up, which is probably going to read something like, "Is Elden Ring really that good?" And the answer is, fucking yes, absolutely it is. It is superb. From the 10 hours that or whatever it is, 9.5, 10 hours that I've played, it is superb. A really superb game. So the first thing, the only reason that I wouldn't have given it a 10, and we'll come back to all the exploration stuff in a minute, but the only reason I wouldn't have given it a 10 in the first place is because on launch, it had some issues, and it's still got a few issues now. So the first issue that I have, which was always going to be a bugbear if it wasn't right, was that the frame rates were all over the place when I was walking through. I noticed it a little bit when he first started running around. I thought, well, this feels a little bit sticky at times, and I'm only in a cave. And then when I got out into the open world, there was bits where I was really feeling it getting really sticky trying to pan around. So I was getting a bit frustrated from that, because that's the sort of stuff that really, really gets to me. And I'm already so super into 60 frames per second now that I can't play games at 30. They just hurt my eyes, people. So there's only two options. You either play it at 30 frames per second, or you play it at performance mode, which is supposed to be unlocked frame rate and, super smooth. Unfortunately, the first 3 episodes I recorded, I think the patch that came out, the day one patch came out after I'd recorded those first 3 episodes. So here's what happened, right? So after I got frustrated with that, I thought, right, I'm going to just read up on, how did it all compare? Like, how was the Xbox Series X one compared to the PlayStation 5? Anyway, it turned out the PlayStation 4 version of the game is the best version to play if you want a solid 60 FPS. And thanks to those people that posted up on the channel saying that in the comments as well. I had not mentioned anything about it. Those comments appeared, I think, the same day or the day after that I'd seen the comparison as well. But if you want a solid, uninterrupted 60 FPS, and you're not fussed about it being 1440p and you're happy with 1080p, then you can buy the PlayStation 4 version and play it on the PlayStation 5. You will get a locked 60 FPS 99% of the time, because that version has a PS4 Pro addition to it, which uncaps the frame rate, I think, and then if you play it on the PS5, you get the you're getting the extra hardware there, and it just gives you this locked 60. So I was super tempted. Now, the downside for me is if you've bought it digitally and that's what you're after, then without any shadow of a doubt, there is a big sort of temptation there for you to go and just, if you click on the options button on your thumbnail of the game, it'll give you an option to change to the PlayStation 4 version, I think, is how it works. I think I've not tried that yet, but because I bought physical, I can't do that. I'm stuck with the PS5 version. Now, all of that said, so there you go. So if you've bought it digitally and you feel like the frame rates are annoying you at any point, go and play the PS4 version if you're not bothered about 1080p, if it being 1080p, which is still going to be beautiful. And I'm sure they'll have reined in a bit as well. Like they're probably here and there a tree or two less somewhere, or, that's the sort of thing that they do when they make these, versions for the lower end consoles and that sort of thing that they are now. That all said, so I did ponder on it. I thought, should I just buy the PS4? Should I buy it digitally again, and then I can sell my physical copy and just, have the option. But I thought, no, I'll stick with it for a bit and then see if it's, And then from the minute I sat down to do part 4, it's been smooth as anything, right? I mean, it has had little tiny sticky moments, but nothing that would bug me. Nothing that would, you just see a little sticky bit there, here and there. But all of the places that seem to be throwing real wobblers with the frame rate all seem to be okay now, and I feel like the day one patch has done a really, really good job of tidying that up. So props to them. Tip my hat to you at From Software. And so hopefully they'll just keep tweaking it as they go and make it a smoother and smoother experience for us. That is the only reason that I would not have given that game a 10 out of 10 the first day I was playing it. Obviously, if you're going to score a game, you want to be at least, getting to the end of it, or very, very far through it. But I tend to score games in my brain as I'm going through them and going, I would dock a point for that, or I would give a point to that. There isn't anything that I've discovered in Elden Ring that I would have docked points for, apart from that was bugging me about the frame rates. So at this point in time, now that seems to have been sorted, it's a 10 out of 10 all day long at the moment from the hours that I've played. It's absolutely superb. So the first things that I noticed, right? So when you're coming into a game like this, everyone who's kind of true fan of those sort of things, they want the same battle system, they want the same buttons, they want it to feel familiar. So all they've done is they've introduced a proper jump button and a crouch button, right? Now, these two things, you would think most games have them in this sort of thing. You think to something like Assassin's Creed, for example, we always have a crouch button so you can sneak around and, Now, it doesn't have sort of hide in the bushes and grab someone, that sort of stuff, but it does have sneak. You can hide in the bushes and sneak about like that, but you do have to come out at some point and fight properly. You can't just, drag people into bushes, and not that I've seen anyway. So it's not like that, but the crouch button is just a superb addition. It's one of those things I always feel like, I don't know, I always feel like it should be there in most games, because you wouldn't just trundle about like a numbnut making noise and being all visible if you're trying to sneak about and do stuff in secret or creep up on people. So it's always a nice button. It's always a nice feature to have anyway. But would it work in a game like this? The answer is absolutely. And is it because it's open world? Probably, yeah. I would say so. I mean, if you play Bloodborne or any of the Dark Souls games, do I feel like I needed a crouch button in those games? I don't remember ever feeling like I needed one. So I don't think the environment's called for it. But because of the environment we're in now, where this world has got so many things going on in it, they've got so many pockets of people all over the place, you want to just have a little sneak around, see who's where, and absolutely works superbly. The standard jump button in the other Soulsborne games, there's usually I'm trying to remember what it is now, but you basically have to hold down the sprint button and then hit X, and that's the only way you can do a jump. I think it's that anyway, or it's hold down the sprint button and then hit it again, something like that. and then they do a leap jump. That's the only jump button you ever had. This game, you just hit X, you can jump wherever you like. You know, it's superb, right? And again, just a really, really natural addition, and it just fits and feels like it should have been there, you know, the whole time. So it just superb. You know, I understand why they're not there in the other games, but it's just two additions that just fit seamlessly into an already familiar gaming mechanic. Absolutely superb. And the other thing, obviously, that's introduced from a wandering and discovery and exploration perspective is your steed, which you get again when you meet that certain someone at the. I don't know if this is only going to happen at that one state of grace when you rest, or whether it can happen at any of your second, third state of graces. I don't know the answer to that, but I feel like you have to reach that state of grace to speak to this person who gives you these things. But your steed, and we won't call it a horse because it isn't actually a horse. Obviously, you're riding something familiar or similar to a horse, but it's got horns and it looks a bit different. But your steed, you can immediately call it. It doesn't come running to you or anything. It just appears underneath you and lifts you up and off you go. And it is so smooth and so awesome riding around on this thing. The amount of games that introduce horseback riding and stuff, and it just so fucking clumsy and all over the place, and you've always like trying to sort yourself out, and it is so smooth. It is unbelievable. Like it is so good. That is what makes it fun to be on the steed. And initially, I really avoided it because I thought I don't want to miss stuff. I don't want to, you know. The other beautiful thing they've done is you don't have to get off the horse to pick stuff up. You just keep, you know, just go over with the horse, hit a triangle, keep hitting triangle, and you can tap it, like even for herbs and stuff to pick out of bushes. Just ride through the bush, just keep tapping X while you're riding around, and it's picking all this stuff up while you're riding around. Absolutely superb. Like, they could not have done a better job with that steed. And then you've got the ability with the steed to jump to really high locations at certain spots where it's got this uplift of wind thing. Which I haven't done. I've only tried it in a few locations just to get used to it. You can die pretty easily using them if you go in the wrong direction, because you can't move in midair. You can't move about, so you got to make sure you get your direction right before you go leaping out. But yeah, absolutely superb. So there's more for me to discover with the horse leaping, because there's, without any doubt, there's areas I've come across where I need to use the steed to get to really high locations. It's the only way you're going to get up there. And I've kind of looked at them and went, right, I'm going to come back to that once I've done a bunch of other stuff. So the steed, great. Another fantastic introduction. All of these things have been introduced, and obviously, like, a steed wouldn't work in any of the other games they've done because they're just too confined spaces. Like, there is no way a steed would make sense. Maybe Anne Orlando. That place was a nightmare to run around. Anne Orlando. Yeah, I mean, it was so bloody big. I got fed up running around Anne Orlando, but even still, you know, a steed would have felt a bit much, I think. So I can't speak highly enough of the little bits they've added to discovering and exploration. It's just superb, and battling, absolutely fantastic. And then when it comes to, I'm trying to remember what order I've got these in. I did jot it all down, actually. What order did I go with things in, people? Let me keep my head straight. Frame rates were talked about. There was also another bug, was a saving issue on the PS4 was another problem. I didn't come across this problem because I learnt a long time ago that if you're going to shut down a From Software game, go to the options menu and quit game from there, because normally next time you start it up, it gives you an error. Well, it gives you a message saying you didn't shut it down properly. Make sure you shut it down properly. So I always kind of do that by nature. But the people who weren't doing that by nature, there was a bug somewhere that was meaning that their saves weren't getting saved properly, and they were not where they were when they finished off. So I believe that's been fixed now, though. Maybe it was certainly on one of the patch notes. Oh yeah, well, I suppose I could backtrack a little bit here just to say what the class selection was like. Now, I did manage to completely miss the fact that I could have really refined my character to a particular look, you know, facial features, all that sort of stuff. I seemed to go pick the class, pick the gender, a couple of other things, and then off I went. But there was a button to actually refine the features of your character and all that sort of stuff. As it happens, my character looks fine anyway, but so I didn't manage to show that off, but it is there. And I have to say, the class options were fantastic. They're kind of, a lot of them were similar to what you would expect from these games. There was 3 that I was interested in. I can't remember what the third one was now, but I was interested in the samurai, interested in the astrologist, and interested in one of the others that I can't remember. But there was about 7 of them, I think. And obviously there's the heavier builds, the lighter builds, and I've gone for a build that's a bit of magic and a bit of sword. Well, a lot of magic and a bit of sword. And it's more gowns than it is armor at this point. So super happy with my pick as well, because I'm using the magic a lot. Really like it. It's a good class if you don't want to, if you're a little bit afraid to get too up close with all the enemies. Magic's a great way to combat that. So it's a great option. Yeah, I think. But a few comments that I've seen in my comments are, when people discover me, they're really happy that I've gone astrologist, because just about the whole world and the mother's gone samurai, because it was such a well-balanced class, and it was kind of a new look, I think, that they hadn't done before. I don't remember a samurai being in any of the other games, apart from obviously Sekiro type thing. But so yeah, I think a lot of people were quite keen to see, I've been quite interested to see how this astrologist plays out. But I'm loving playing as the astrologist. Very lightweight character, very nimble, dodging, rolling, all that sort of stuff. So the class selection, dead simple. There wasn't much to it. If you don't want to faff around, I mean, for all that you see your character's face anyway, it doesn't really matter, does it? But if you really want to refine your character, you can do. I just happened to skip through it by mistake. Crouch and jump we've talked about. Also, yeah, combat-wise, you can also fight on the horse, just in case you wondered. You can swing the sword around, you can use your magics, you can even hit stuff on the... Well, I think, yeah, you can hit stuff on the floor. You can combat enemies on horses. I had a bit of a fight with somebody on a horse. They then fell off the horse with no health. So I thought, right, I'll just ride around and smack them again, at which point they went into some uber move and destroyed me. So there is a point where it's worth just jumping off and taking the rest of that fight via, just on your feet rather than on the steed. So I'm going to say horse too many times. It's not a horse, it's a steed. I'm also not sure yet if you can change the look of your steed as you go through the game. I feel like the clip that I saw a long time ago wasn't the steed I'm riding now, so I feel like maybe there might be different types of steed you can call upon. I've just discovered almost like a pet function in the game where you can call upon, I think it was wolves that I got, I think to help you in battle. But when I tried to test it, this was at the end of part 9, I think, when I tried to test it, end of part 9, possibly beginning of part 10, which isn't quite finished yet. I tried to test it. She keeps going back looking to use it, but there's nothing there. So I don't know what that's about. I'll have to suss it out. I can't really talk much more about it. But obviously you can get different types of spirits to call up and that sort of thing to help you out. The combat itself plays exactly as you would expect it to in any Soulsborne game. It's the same: right bumper to hit, left bumper to block. Parry with the left trigger, powerful attack with the right trigger. There's also actually the parry has actually become a skill button. So if you've got a shield that has a parry skill attached to it, then it will be parry. If you've got a shield like my second shield didn't have anything on it, then there is... I'm trying to remember now. I think the shield... My first shield parried until... Oh, no, that's right. Sorry, ignore me. Sorry, the skill that I got actually went on the sword, not on the shield. That's why I'm getting confused, I think. So, yeah, what happened was there are things called skills now that you can assign to weapons, and I got a skill early on called Stormwind, which kind of hits the floor and pushes out a whole bunch of wind to push people back. I couldn't figure out how to use it. The reason I couldn't use it was because I still had the shield equipped on the left hand, and because the shield has parry on it, that's quantified as a skill. So you just take the shield off, just hit the right on the D-pad, left on the D-pad, and then hit L2. It uses Stormwind. Put the shield back on, it will use parry. If your shield's got a skill on it and the sword's got a skill on it, I assume the shield will use, it will always use the skill that's on that. So I've got one skill to this point, so I haven't really tried any of them out. But the combat itself, other than small little tricklets of things like that, and obviously this summon of spirits thing, which I haven't got around to having a proper use of yet, to see how that works or how many times you can call them, I've got no idea. It could be one of these things where it's like once a day and save it for a boss or something. I don't know. I've not had enough time to try it out. Backstabs are still there, which is a favourite for most people that play these games. Get around the back of someone and boosh, you get that special move. They're still there, still awesome. Also, they introduced a jump hit as well. So if you jump up and then use the R2, I think it is, the power button, you can get like a stagger move that pushes them back or pushes the swords away, and then you can get a smash in. With the other games, there was a kick button, wasn't there, to try and push the things away. I've not actually checked to see if the kick button's there. I assume it's not. Someone can tell me in the comments below if it is, but I think those power moves have replaced it. But the combat's everything you would expect normally, with a couple of extra things added in, which is also perfect. It's what you want. Steed we've talked about. Yeah, bosses is probably the last thing I should have talked about, but we'll talk about them now. I've only faced 2 of them because you fight one right at the very beginning, like you do in these games, and inevitably it will beat you when you end up at the beginning of the game. So it's not a boss. Well, I mean, I suppose someone will say they've beat it. I could, but anyway, you don't need to beat it. If you fail, it just starts where you need to start anyway. And then the next one is more of a tutorial boss. It wasn't that hard to get around once you realise what you had to do. And then after that, once you get into the open world, then there's your bosses. And I've fought 2 bosses, and I've beat one of them. One of them was a big troll, and the other one was a dragon. I've beat the troll, but I've not beat the dragon yet. I got the dragon quite close. Well, I say close. I think I got him down to about a third of its health a couple of times maybe. And then I just seemed to get worse and worse from that point. It was really, I hadn't really leveled up at that point either too much, I don't think. So I thought I'll come back and I'll go off exploring. That's the beauty of the game. You can just, if you're finding it, I didn't even find it frustrating. I was actually enjoying the fight. I actually tried fighting the dragon on horseback as well after, umpteen attempts without being on the, steedback. It's called, but superb fights. And the way that these boss fights hit you in the open world, it's not like, all right, I'm going to walk through this cloud and there's going to be a boss, or it literally like lands on you or appears, or like and it's always like a holy fuck type thing. Or for the 2 that I've met anyway, it's like, oh holy shit, right? Massive health bar appears, and like the dragon. Well, I don't want to give too much away, but it is a proper like fucking hell, right? Sort yourself out. So you don't get much time to think about it. It's on you, So I've been super impressed with the bosses that I've fought. Even though I failed on the dragon one, I'm really looking forward to going back and fighting it again. It was a really fun fight to do. I've not found... I think the reason there's no frustration in this game is because they've also introduced a sort of staggered checkpoint where I realise there are certain bosses in the game, because I've heard it said, that where you do have to do some form of run back to them. You can't, I think at the sort of deeper under the ground or whatever, more Souls-like, where you've got to make a bit of a run back if you die, maybe. But the ones that I've been to so far have got a site of grace literally down the road, and you can get there without too much hassle. So it was 2 seconds to get back to the dragon fight. I didn't actually fail the troll fight, so I feel like I wouldn't have been that far away. Remembering where that troll was, I feel like it would have been a 2-second trip back as well. So the frustration with the other ones was, oh no, I'm going to lose all my souls in this room. I'm going to have to get through that whole nightmare I've just been through to get back to this route. So there was all of that. That has been that frustration's kind of been taken away, because as well as the sites of grace, you've also got these sort of sub-checkpoint things that I can't remember their exact name, but they're like little statues placed around the place. And when you die, you get the option to either go back to the state of grace or go to the nearest statue. The only downside of it is that if you've not noticed the statue while you've been running around, because they're quite small, you're kind of like, well, I don't know where that statue is, and where's it going to spawn me? So you just take a bit of pot luck on that one. If you think that the site of grace isn't too far away anyway, just go to that. But it is a brilliant addition, because most of the time the statue will actually be a bit closer than the site of grace, and you're straight back to where you need to be. So I think those sort of frustrations have gone for that very reason. Like the pain of getting back to the boss has gone. So it just makes that, just keep fighting it and try to learn from your mistakes. And I think that's where the genius of this game really is, and why a lot of people will finish it more than would have finished a Dark Souls game. Because it's not that it's easier, it's just that it's a lot less frustrating for that reason. I never found the boss fights I mean, I found them challenging, but it wasn't that I found them frustrating. It was always the run back that I found frustrating. It was like, fuck's sake, just let me fight it again. You know what I mean? Like, but the whole point was that you needed to get back for your souls, and they wanted to make it as difficult as possible. Wouldn't surprise me if at some point, they put an extra trophy in and, put it on a setting that says boss runbacks or something, or I don't know. But for me, this game is far more accessible to people that didn't like the Souls games for that pain. You'll find that pain is taken away from this game in most places. Well, in all the places I've been so far, and I would think most places in the game. Certainly the story ones. So it's not that it's easier, it's just that it's taken that pain away. So there you are. What else have we got, people? Bosses. Skills on weapons and swords we've talked about. Oh, in order to do that, again, you need to have met that person at that. Well, I met her at the second open world site of grace that I ended up at, and she gives you an item that lets you do those skills and things. Here's an interesting one. Memory slots, for those that played the old games. I had to look this up because I was trying for the life of me to figure out. I did a bit of a grind, right? Anyone that's watching the Let's Play will see it. I grinded out in this little location where I managed to find a few enemies that were giving me decent points. I just ran around for an hour and a half killing the same enemies and clocked up all of these souls. You don't have to do that. I just thought I might as well, because I was waiting for a video to render anyway, so I couldn't record. So I thought, right, I'll just off camera or just run around clocking up some souls. I managed to clock up about 45,000 souls or whatever it was. And I think that gave me about 7 level ups. And in doing that, I was thinking, well, where do I put these points? Because I didn't know if upgrading the intelligence made my spells more powerful, or whether it was just the ability to buy more powerful spells. I didn't know about the memory slots, about putting more spells in to choose from the D-pad. Now, in the old games, or the other games, you have to, it's the amount of slots you have to put spells into while you're in battle, so you can jump through different spells, is attached to, I think, intelligence and possibly faith or holy or whatever. It's attached somewhere in the magics. So you have to level it up a certain amount of times, and then you'll get a slot, and then you do another couple of times, you get another slot. That isn't in this game. So in this game, there are items that you will find in the world that will give you another memory slot to put another spell into. So anyone that was wondering that, there's your answer to that. I eventually found that after Googling it a few times and found a couple of articles. Yeah, well, I was going to talk about this next one, but I think, having talked about the second Site of Grace / Bonfire Site of Grace, that I missed, there was something in there to help you with your weapons and all that sort of stuff. So, I'm not going to go into it. Or will I? Yeah, I will. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to mention it, people, because it was a bit of a frustration for me, because I thought I really want my weapons to be a little bit ubered up. And with the other games, generally speaking, you have to find a blacksmith in order to level up your weapons. In this game, you will have to find a blacksmith. I haven't found them yet. But before you find the blacksmith, you can get the facility to make your weapons a little bit more uber, but you only get to a very minimal uberness, and then you have to find the blacksmith who can make it huge amounts more uber. So there are little blacksmithing tables that you can find, and there's one there, and I'd completely missed it. In actual fact, in the end, I leveled that, and that, by the way, was the answer to my conundrum about intelligence. My experience is I put 2 points on intelligence, and I tested killing the same 2 enemies after I did it, and it still took the same amount of hits to get them down. I then upgraded when I found this upgrade table, smithing table, I think it was called, I upgraded the staff. I had enough stones by that point to upgrade the staff to +3, which is 3 level ups effectively of the staff itself, and that made I went back, teleported back to those 2 enemies, and it was 1 less hit on both of them to kill them, and also meant that I could kill both of them with 1 blue bar of FP, whereas before I had to top it up to manage the other one. So it did make a difference. So intelligence, in my experience, hasn't actually ubered up my spells. It's just giving me the ability to buy bigger spells and better spells when we find them. So far, if that's not right, someone can tell me, but that is my experience of testing it. Yeah, there's other kits and stuff. So there's little vendors you can find that will sell you things that will let you make things to help you in the world for all of the things that you're collecting, like the herbs and all other sorts of other things you're picking up. You can make all sorts of items to help you in battle, potions, actual physical bombs and stuff like that. But you have to buy a little kit, and there's little things you buy from each of the vendors that will help you out. Again, try and find that second site of grace, and you might find something there that's useful. It's all very simple as well. It's dead easy to use. Where are we? Yeah, I mean, the last number of notes I've got, I was a bit more about making stuff, but I won't ruin it for you. So really, I think the last thing to talk about is how long have I been talking for, people? Well, a lot longer than I thought. Yeah, I mean, the last thing really is just the whole awesomeness and jaw drop that is the discovery in the game. I started talking about it at the beginning of the game, kind of beginning of the podcast, kind of backtracked a little bit. But it's the awe and wonder of this world. Like, every single time I feel like, oh, that looks a bit pointless to go and explore, or will I bother going up there? And every time I do, I find something remarkable, like like a cave of just even the most basic of cave type places can see, it's just interesting with different things in them, different enemies, different things to discover. And then you walk in another cave and it's just this whole fucking other world you've walked into. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible. It really, really is incredible. And it's just the way they've sort of scattered all these things around the world. It never falls away from being a wonder to play. Certainly after the 10 hours that I've played, well, 9.5 hours that I've played, I'm always in awe of it. Like, I really want to go over there and have a look at what's over there. What's that over on that top there? And I've not even got to the place I'm meant to be going after 9.5 hours. I'm supposed to be going, I think, to the castle at the back, and I've not even gone there yet. And I think a lot, as I say, I'm kind of thankful that I didn't know about that thing pointing me in the right direction for the story itself, because it's just kept me away from doing that. I've just gone... I thought, right, I got to a crossroads. I thought, right, I'm going to go up there and deal with these guys. Then I'll go up a little bit, had a look around, discovered somewhere I could go into, and then I thought, oh, I'm not going to go in there yet. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go the other way, see what's up that way. And then all of those things have just taken me to so many places that there's one place I found that was just a curiosity side action. I just went, oh, what'll happen if I do? What'll happen if I do it? So I did it, and I mean, and then just this extraordinary thing happened, and I was like, oh, right, okay, this is incredible. Absolutely incredible, people. I can't begin to tell you how good this game is. It's superb. It's that I actually also, like, when you're riding around on the steed, and I've got my big shield on my back, even as this sort of astronomer, sort of wizard type character with sword and shield and my staff. It's the only game I think I've ever played where I feel like a knight on a horseback. You know what I mean? Like riding around this sort of medieval type world, fighting monsters and exploring, and it's just awesome, absolutely awesome. The buzz it gives you playing it is superb. Don't get me wrong, it's still a tough game to play. The enemies are still tough. You've still got to learn your battling. You've still got to figure out how to get around them, get the backstabs in. You're still nervous when you fight, because you know that no fight is particularly easy. They're always going to keep you on your toes. You'd never want to take on a group of enemies in these games, people, and that is still true. So that's where your sneaking about comes in handy, or coaxing an enemy out of the group. There's another thing actually they've introduced. I forgot to write it down in my notes, which is also a super helpful tool. When you kill a group of enemies, like, you'll find them in little packs sort of all around the world, little groups of them. When you kill the last one in a group, you get a top up on your flask. And it seems to, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to, for me at the minute, it seems to top up 1 mana and 1 health. So initially I thought it was filling me right up with all of them, because I have 3 and 3, but in fact it is 1. So you get, for each group, you get, if you finish off a group, it might be 2, it might be 5, but you finish off the last one in that group and you'll get a top up in your flasks, 1 top up. And that also lends itself to not having to reset the site of grace all the time, because every time you rest at a site of grace, all the enemies come back. So that sort of stuff stops you having to rest. Obviously, if you want to level up and you want to do your stats, then you have to rest, and then the enemies come back. So, but a lot of the time you don't have to You go, well, I've explored that area where those enemies were anyway. I don't need to go fight them again. I've got everything. I've got all the pickups. I still do the pickup runs, and it's even better on the horse. But even then, I sprint around the enemies, like grabbing all the kit, you know, especially when if I've not got any runes, they're called, instead of souls. If I've not got any runes to lose, I just go for it. Because what's the worst that'll happen? I'll just end up back at the site of grace, and then I'll sprint off again, try and get all the pickups around. Because you don't lose your pickups, it's only the runes you lose. And that's, honestly, fantastic, people. Absolutely fantastic. So the answer to the thumbnail is absolutely fucking yes. This game deserves all the plaudits it's getting it. It is a 10 out of 10, absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt. And I've only played 9.5 hours of it. So, you know, I understand there'll be people out there going, how can you possibly fucking say it's a 10 out of 10 when you've only played 9.5 hours? Trust me, if that's what the first 9.5 hours are like, it will be a fucking 15 out of 10 by the time I finish the game. If I ever do. The only game I've ever finished of theirs was Dark Souls, the original, remastered. And that Aaron Brew gave me a little hand. I beat all the bosses, but he did all the runbacks, which took the pain of the runbacks away for me. That was kind of how we did that for my Dark Souls playthrough, with the exception of one boss. He did actually do one boss, but it was that boss you didn't have to fight. She was in a long corridor, and we were just taking turns, and he just happened to give it a go, and he was just awesome at it and managed to kill her. So it was the only boss I didn't do, but it was an optional boss anyway, so I still would have finished the game. I think the reason that happened was because I think he had managed not to fight her for some reason in his playthrough. I think that's what happened. But anyway, well, there you are, folks. I mean, honestly, I can't sing enough praises about the game. It is absolutely worth its 10 out of 10s that it's getting everywhere. At this point, I'm just loving it. Absolutely loving it. I haven't actually played any today because I've had some running around to do. Footy tonight, a couple of these. Could be a chill day tomorrow. But Tuesday could be another full recording day of Elden Ring, methinks. And it doesn't matter, actually, because you've got the episode that was coming up tonight. So you've had 2 episodes today. You've had one at 8 in the morning, one at 6 at night. There's also been a Torchlight 2 somewhere in the middle of that. Tomorrow you're going to get a Elden Ring at 11 and a Torchlight 2 at 5, I think. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then Tuesday's episode of Elden Ring is already recorded. I'll upload it after I've uploaded this particular video. So that'll be ready for you for Tuesday, along with that'll be at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, along with another Torchlight 2 in the evening. And then by time Tuesday's done, I'll have done probably another full spread of Elden Ring, so there'll be lots more to come of that, and there's still some more Torchlight 2s to come, so you've got loads of content coming, people. Much as I'd like to give you 2 Elden Rings a day all the way through the week, it'd probably be a bit of an ask, to be fair. So there you are. I hope that's been of help to people that are thinking about buying the game. I hope it's been an interesting topic of discussion for those that are playing along with me. I'm loving all of the feedback you're giving me on both Torchlight 2 and Elden Ring. Keep it coming, people. Keep it coming. Especially with tips and tricks on Elden Ring. If you are going to leave comments on Elden Ring, do, and you have done, so I'm not having to go at anybody. You have absolutely done right by me so far, and you haven't put any spoilers in your comments. Just keep it that way. Just keep it as, if you do want to leave sort of hints and tips, just keep it really vague and don't mention things in the world and that sort of thing. For now anyway, till I get a bit further into it. So just keep that as it has been. Well, there you are, folks. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm glad I sat down and just got all that thought process out of my brain and out of my mouth and given it to you. It's good to talk about these things, people. It's like that was my Elden Ring therapy this week. That's why. Well, there you are, folks. If I talk any longer, it'll be just blabber, blubber, blubber, people. It'll mean nothing at all. I'll be sitting here talking, and you'll just sign off because I'm making no sense whatsoever. So, I've no idea when the next one of these is going to be. I'm going to be so hooked up on... There was an outside chance I could have done this on Friday, but I really wanted to sink my teeth into Elden Ring before I was going to talk about it, and I have at least got a 10-hour, 9.5-hour teeth-sinking session in. So, yeah, I'm absolutely delighted I took the time out. I'm absolutely delighted I took the time off to play it as well. So I've got all this time through to Wednesday I go back to work, to my day job, so I'll get a lot more done by then. There you are, folks. I hope this has been of use to somebody. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on this particular awesome game, people. I don't think we'll see another game with that kind of expectation for quite a long time. I think it's become such a cult sort of studio now when they do something that is sort of the same but also monumentally different because it's this whole open world thing. I mean, the anticipation was so massive. I mean, it did win like most anticipated game of the year last year, whatever it was. I think the viewing figures on people watching the finally when the trailer came for Elden Ring, the views on it were just ridiculous. So I think it'll be a while. I mean, we'll see plenty of great games, don't get me wrong, but I think it'll be a while before we see something with the anticipation of Elden Ring in it. Especially also when it's a new IP as well. You know, like it's all very well getting excited about, you know, the second Horizon game or whatever, which wasn't for me, but, you know, those sort of games are great, or even the second God of War, or, you know, but when it's a new franchise like that, it also builds up an incredible amount of wonder and like, oh, give it to us now. Well, there you are. I hope you are all enjoying the game as much as I am. I hope those people that were a little bit anxious about, well, not anxious is probably the wrong word, but sort of on the fence about buying it, maybe what I've discussed there might help you decide on getting it or make your mind up as to not to get it. Entirely up to you, of course. Well, there you know. Let me know in the comments below about all of your experiences that you're having with it, or whether you've not got it yet and you might be thinking about getting it soon. Let me know in the comments below. Anything at all, people. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this podcast of mine today, and I shall catch you in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.